Hi, everyone. It's Monday. Hello, and welcome to our live session. To all our support fibro people out there, we're excited to highlight fibromyalgia advocates and educators from around the globe. Today, we have a very special guest. Jennifer is the founder of 40 and Over Living with Fibromyalgia blog. She's also part of the support fibro team and joining us from Louisiana. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be a part of the team and also to learn so much to help myself and help others as a member of Support Fibro and also as a blogger, as a former journalist, as a mother. And the fibro community is so amazing, so supportive, so empathetic, not sympathetic. None of us want sympathy. What we all say to each other, like we say it so many times that eventually sometimes I just laugh at it, but gentle hugs. We want gentle hugs and empathy. And that's what I've found just in really the last few months. I mean, I guess since the fall. I was diagnosed with fibro just over a year ago, and it took about 6 months for me to find this community or want to be a part of any community once I accepted or started working towards acceptance of my diagnosis. So I feel very, very lucky to be here in this moment and also as a part of our community.
Well, we appreciate you joining us today, and we're glad that we could create a community that you could find support through, because I know it's challenging with fibromyalgia and getting that diagnosis and not feeling like, what do you do? There's so many questions. I'd love for our support fibro friends to get to know you even more. And we're going to hop into her blog later on, but can you let us know a little bit more about your health journey and how you got here?
Sure. The short story would be that after I've always had heavy periods, menstrual cycles, and when my second daughter, I have two daughters, they are now 6.5 and 4.5. But when my second daughter was 9 months, my menstrual cycle came back and it wouldn't stop, and it hurt. And I tried with multiple doctors for over a year to make it stop. And finally, I already knew I had endometriosis, though I was very lucky, it didn't cause fertility difficulties. But finally, it was brought up that I most likely had adenomyosis, which is endometriosis on your uterus. So the only choice was a hysterectomy. I had been in so much pain by the time I had the surgery I think it had been at least maybe 1.5 years. I had the surgery, my bladder was injured. It didn't occur to me that once my bladder healed, that anything would happen. I spent many months recovering, and I had a few hiccups, but things were looking good until I got a UTI. And then things with my bladder and the fact that my bladder had not fully healed yet started to take off. And really the UTI, unfortunately, went undiagnosed for way too long and started me on a long course of antibiotics off and on. And my body, the way that I think of it, and I think my doctors have phrased it differently, but I think of it as my nervous system crapped out, and there was fibromyalgia. I've always had a really strong fight or flight, and up until my fibro diagnosis, I feel like it helped me. I lived in New York. I could walk down the street and scare the shit out of, excuse me, I don't know. Am I allowed to curse? I curse a lot to get through this diagnosis. But I scared the pants off a lot of creepy guys because I gave off on purpose this aura of don't mess with me. And that was my fight or flight. And it helped me. It helped me get through difficult interviews, difficult job interviews, working, maybe taking jobs that I wasn't quite ready for. Yes, my hair and my nails are purple. I can see.
Yeah.
So the fight or flight really helped me until I feel like I got hit with fibro. And once it was brought up that I might have it, I kept thinking about the Lyrica ads and how I'd always felt so sorry for the people in those ads. And then all of a sudden those people were me. The pain doctor that I saw, I was just in dire pain. I had gone for another doctor's appointment that just didn't get anywhere. So they sent me to a pain doctor at my hospital, and she was like, I already know you have fibro, but why don't you just fill out this 2-page chart of where you hurt? And if you hurt in the 18 fibro tender points, then you're set. You have fibro, you've got your diagnosis. So I did. And she immediately suggested that I have a ketamine infusion, and also that I start low dose naltrexone. So ketamine is something to continue with. I am not clear if it's working for me anymore. That's a different tangent. But the cool thing, so low dose naltrexone is, as a lot of us know, an anti-inflammatory, and it is believed that with fibro, we are inflamed. And personally right now, because of meds that I'm on that are trying to fight that fire, I feel like I'm on fire. I'm having a crap day, but this is a much better way to spend it than on my couch. So thanks. But I was put on low-dose naltrexone. So I went home and eventually Googled it. And by Googling it, I found Dr. Lipton, who, as if you don't know, she is, as far as I know, the only fibro-only doctor in the country. And also she has fibro. So I immediately ordered her book, learned so much, realized that my doctor knew what she was talking about with the low-dose naltrexone, and then began embarking on this journey, which has eventually led me here. But there's been a lot of pain, ups and downs, and I'm in a real down right now. I had the worst pain of my life on Saturday night. And then finally I fell asleep at 8 o'clock with my daughters, and I woke up feeling okay on Sunday. So unfortunately on pain days, I can't nap, it seems. So it just means I just need to go to bed, and eventually, I don't know, whatever was going on that day, it got better. Yesterday was better, but I am on a lot more meds than normal too. So I don't know where my journey's headed, but I believe in advocacy. I've been a feminist since middle school. Being a feminist doesn't mean just being for women. It means just, I think, being fair and equal. So it's been really exciting to connect with some of the men with fibromyalgia and learn from their experiences. And I have always been someone who I want to use my experiences and share them and help other people, because otherwise it feels like, what's the point? I'm so deeply an empath that I just have to tune out the world a lot of the time. But on the other hand, I can also help be a voice, and being a voice for fibro makes me feel like there's a reason and there's a purpose. So that's where I am with my journey, and a lot of pain, but not quitting either.
Well, we appreciate you being here. And I know with the flares and how it goes with the pain and trying to be even on video chat. And this is how I connected with you too, with your blog, because you keep it very real for all of us to know. And you have so much information. I mean, we were talking about endometriosis and the overlap it has with fibromyalgia that we don't understand completely. And I was able to ask you questions even with my own journey and trying to put together the pieces. So I really appreciate that. So I'm going to definitely make sure to include all the links for people to find you as well for your blog, so people can keep reading. And I hope we can integrate more of you into Support Fibro when it comes to that type of information. But within this journey, and speaking about your blog, like, what inspired you to start blogging, and how has it helped you as well?
Those are very good questions. So I am a writer. I've been a writer since I was like 5 years old. I got an honorable mention in Cricket magazine for a poem about hair follicles. I don't know. I'm an only child. I spent a lot of time alone. And also I always try to find the humor in illness, because otherwise it's just too serious and too grim. But I have had, and when I lived in New York City, I blogged about food. When I first moved to New Orleans, I blogged about pets and pet sitting. Animals are one of my passions. We have one cat. I'm allowed to have one cat. My husband is not. Let's just say this is his first pet. That's what we'll just say. And our cat loves him. But so anything that I'm passionate about, I want to write about. I also like to interview people and learn new things. I read a ton, whether it's fiction or the news. But in the middle of the night back in late September, early October, I was having an awful time and feeling so lonely. And just, I can see, okay, I'll just share this because I share everything. My ear, that's for my medicine. That's why I said I'm on fire. Yeah, my ear is red. So I'm just going to cover that because it's bothering me to see it, but it's not nerves. That's my medicine. I think, I don't know where my husband was. He might have even been next to me asleep because he can sleep through anything. But I just was like, I'm going to start a blog. And so I did. And I wrote my first post and I'm like, okay, I'm a fibro blogger now. Done. And I helped myself. I wrote myself out of a really shitty place. And not long after I started my blog, which also I was really bored because I had always expected to, I'd been a stay-at-home mom, but I always expected to go back to work once my kids were in school full time. I never expected to be stuck in my house all day, as nice as it is. So all of a sudden I'd created a job for myself and I didn't know, do I want to earn money from this? Do I want to write articles from this? What do I want to do? But I wrote a blog about my zombie eyes, which have been better recently. I've been sleeping a little bit better. And so I just couldn't find, I didn't have the right cover up that was working for my eyes, my dark circles. I wanted something that was natural, paraben and phthalate free. And randomly, Beth from Simply Lush Life, who I know you're interviewing later this week, contacted me and said that she would send me, she's a beauty counter rep, and she would send me free product if I liked it, would I write about it? I couldn't believe it. I had just started blogging. So yes, I wear beauty counter eye pen concealer now and some other products. But I made a friend and she found me. I'm so used to being the one to find people. So to be found felt so great. And I spoke on the phone and she's unfortunately been diagnosed longer than me. And then really, I feel like through her, I became involved with the fibro community. So writing is my go-to. And I just need to remember that for the rest of my life, that's what I do. And I write about myself, but also I want it to be you or the readers thinking about their own lives or seeing their life through my life. Or I'll be honest, and maybe you completely have a different experience, or you don't get red ears from your medicine, or you don't even take medicine. But that's one of the things I found really accepting about this fibro community that I really credit Beth for bringing me into, is that we all have different approaches and we're all struggling in different ways. And we just kind of say, okay, I support you. And that's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. And I know at Support Fibro, we support a lot of the bloggers and vloggers out there, just sharing the experience, building your own community amongst people, and that relatability is so important. So we love that. And I know all of you have been able to connect together, and we love Beth. Yes, she'll be interviewed at the end on Thursday. So we'll try to keep it concise. Beth and I like our biohacking science. So we'll have fun with all of that. So how do you manage it all? So wife, mother of beautiful children, I see you gardening. What have you found helpful when it comes to managing family life and fibromyalgia and health?
We're still figuring it out. I would say that every time we think we have it figured out, something new comes up. My husband and I have been together for almost 20 years. We dated for a really long time before we got married. And I was so mad at him that he didn't propose sooner. But by the time that we got engaged and then married, we just had been through so much together and then have continued to go through so much. And also just having kids, obviously, the ups and downs of being parents for almost 7 years now. We have a very strong, I don't know, we're just meant to be. I'm Jewish, and I think the Hebrew word or the Yiddish word is kismet. We were just meant to be. So we don't always get along. Like we don't fight a lot, but we trust each other and we believe in each other and we like each other. And of course I love him and I'm in love with him, but I just really like him. So that helps. So on shit days or when I take it out on the person I love the most, we can make it through that. My dad when I was a child, was very domestic. Like he was the one who did the dishes. My mom was like, I'm a slob and, whatever. And that's kind of the dynamic in our household. Like I don't load the dishwasher correctly. And so I just don't do it. So add fibro to that. And our house is often kind of a mess. We're very lucky. We have a housekeeper once a week. She neatens things and then we proceed, all of us, to destroy things because if I make a mess, I honestly don't have the energy to clean it up. I barely have the energy to cook these days. A few months ago I did. So right now I'm in a downward slope. My husband and I would say our main focus is our daughters. They're both in therapy. They both think that I'm dying a lot of the time. And I lost my mom at a young age. So to hear that over and over, I mean, as if I'm not in enough pain already. They're just punching me, stabbing me. But we try to have a lot of fun. We've certainly broken a whole bunch of rules. We thought like, you can't eat on the couch. Okay, you can eat wherever you want. Just please eat. They watch a lot of TV because I need them to, because otherwise, what can I do? We got a new play set in the backyard so that they have more entertainment for home. I try to just give them unlimited love, snuggles, so much affection, so much attention. I try to ask them questions. I try to use empathy with them and not assume, like, instead of, oh, this happened, you must have felt this way. I instead correct myself and say, oh, so how did that make you feel? Which is how I also want to be treated. Instead of someone assuming something about me, I want them to ask me. I also would say that we've unfortunately continued to have to add help, whether it's the weekly housekeeper or more babysitter help, or possibly a nanny. That's the next step. Because right now things are so inconsistent and my kids need more consistency. So if I can't be consistent, we obviously need someone else. We don't live near family. If we lived near family, that might be different. But we have organic grass-fed meat shipped to us monthly. So we always have a protein and a vegetable ready to go as long as one of us remembers to defrost the meat. So like right now there's salmon defrosting in my freezer that we didn't even have to think to shop for. So that's an easy way to feed ourselves. And easy for my husband to do if he comes home and I'm not able to make the food. Feeding ourselves, keeping our daughters, mentally okay, and trying to prove to them that I'm not dying. That's one of the hardest things, is trying to show them this is not, I unfortunately literally know what dying looks like. I can't go into those details with them, nor do I want to, but we talk about how, I'm just tired. And one of my daughters calls it fibromyalgia or fibromyalgia. And then the other one calls it fibroyouralgia because she refuses to think it's hers. It's mommy's. It's mommy's problem. So being there for them and then doing things for myself, like gardening. Gardening gives me a reason to be outside and do something. I have to make sure not to overdo it. But I'm always tinkering with something, or we have 2 butterfly gardens. So it's been really fun watching the monarch butterfly life cycle over and over and over again. And I especially if I'm medicated, I can just go stare at my milkweed for a really long time to watch the caterpillars and the butterflies and the bees and, be proud that we're contributing to our environment. And then kind of think of our butterfly garden in the same way we think of raising children, and they're going to go through cycles. And one of my kids is in a really, really tough and long cycle right now. I don't know what's going to change it, maybe just getting a little bit older. But a year ago, I was going through a tough time with the other kid who was hitting and throwing and broke a snow globe. And yes, it makes a huge mess when a snow globe is thrown across the room. So we just do the best we can. And at the end of the night, they're in my arms and they fall asleep. the three of us, my girls fall asleep in my bed, and then my husband moves them. That's breaks all of the rules of all the sleep training, hours and hours of sleep training that we did when my oldest was young. And it did work until by 7:30, I can't stand up anymore, because I'm up at 6 with them. And by 7:30, I just can't. So if they want me to be a part of bedtime, it's right now easiest if they fall asleep in my bed. And I'm thinking of the sleep coach that we worked with. So the opposite. But anyway, I love knowing that no matter how hard the day is, even Saturday when I was in the worst pain of possibly my life, aside from giving birth, they fell asleep with me. And I hope that brought them peace that day. So it's a moving puzzle. And I know it is for all of us, whether you have kids or not. I mean, as I said, we have a cat. Other people have tons of pets. I don't know how you deal with tons of pets and tons of kids and fibro. I mean, I'd like a companion dog, but nobody's going to walk the dog, so we can't get a dog.
This is real life with fibromyalgia. So that's where I said you keep it real, and that's what's so great. I know we emphasize some of the education part and feeling better, but I love this aspect and the insights of showing a real life picture of living with fibromyalgia and joining even the fibromyalgia parenting group. And I see Brandy's been posting on the chat about the family aspects. I would love to have you and Brandy come on sometime in the future to talk more about parenting with fibromyalgia and add to the family's program, so we can hear a real perspective on what's really going on and let parents out there know, like, real life with fibromyalgia, and know that there's other people out there, and share tips with each other. So that's what I think is so beautiful about these conversations. If you don't mind, I'm just going to switch gears a little bit and address some of the advocacy components, because that's come up a lot in our conversations. Mm-hmm. So as someone that came into the fibromyalgia community in 2018, and you've been involved, what do you feel would benefit the fibromyalgia community the most from what you've seen?
I think that's a very good question. And it's very clear to me that we need more doctors who are focused on fibromyalgia. And though there are many ways to go about treating it, it would be so great if it could be streamlined amongst doctors and more fibro specialists. I mean, I just switched from one pain doctor to another pain doctor. They treat all kinds of pain. So they're not specialists. Dr. Lipton, as far as I know, do you know of any other just fibro doctors in the country?
There are some fibromyalgia specific doctors. I am excited that there's more interest, I think, than ever before, but they don't call themselves fibromyalgia specialists.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, that makes sense, because then you might be limiting who you can see. But if we could find more research, more money going into fibro, and I feel like I have a lot of resources. It's just that fibro is so tricky. And unfortunately, what was working for me a few months ago, when I was feeling almost guilty that I was feeling so good, is not working now. So now I'm the opposite. Now I'm just glad to have a DVR full of TV shows or Netflix or whatever, so that if I'm having a bad day, I can zone out and watch TV. But I get bored of that, as I just said. So as I've been writing my blog and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it, I realized that the writing wasn't enough. And so I'm so glad to actually be using my voice here and in DC in September with you, to take this pain and do something with it. Lying on the couch is not the answer. And though I do plenty of that, and feeling guilty all the time is obviously not okay, not the answer. I am working through lots of, like, the mental component has to be massaged, the cognitive part, because it's pain in the brain. So how do we get this pain out of the brain? Aside from, throwing all this medicine at it that's making my ear red.
I think those are the things we're working to look at as a team as well, and build that community I love a community driven with compassion and empowerment, and still understand the self-care aspects, especially like you said, sometimes that DVR just provides so much comfort, or blogging or vlogging and getting these interviews. And that's the reason why we're doing this, so we can share all kinds of perspectives, and then show that there's other advocates in different cities and what resources you've seen. How did you go about finding the resources when you first, like, you got the fibromyalgia, like, what did you do? What did you do next? Did you search for another doctor, or, well, you found Dr. Lipton's book, but
yeah, I don't know if it was that same day that I was diagnosed and put on LDN, low dose naltrexone, but within the week of starting that medicine, I found Dr. Lipton, and finding a book that just spoke to me. And I read her book over and over again, and I give it to every doctor that I see. So that was the beginning for me. And I do ketamine infusions, which in theory help make the pain go away for a time. Not everybody in the community does them, or has tried them, or has access to them. My hospital offers them, but at a much lower dose than a private doctor that's local. So it's about what you can afford, unfortunately, which is so ridiculous. As many of us know, we have a lot of out-of-pocket expenses, whether that's for myofascial release, or lately I've just been going to Whole Foods to get a massage, a back and shoulder massage. But I mean, I'm interested in Reiki. I'm interested in hypnotism. I would try anything, especially if they could come to my house, because I don't always have the energy to go to them, whoever they are. But through Support Fibro, I think I've found people, and that's really what I've been looking for. My doctor can tell me one thing, I can read something else, but then to just find somebody else that's going through something similar, that makes all the difference with feeling lonely or alone or not. Because though we live in the same house, and though my husband sees me in pain, it's silent pain, and maybe it'd be different if my kids weren't home. But it's not the kind of pain where you're like screaming and crying and moaning. It's just like you hurt and you have to kind of focus somewhere else, or you'll lose yourself in the pain. And that's, yeah, I like meds. I am on the list for medical marijuana in Louisiana. Unfortunately, it keeps getting pushed back. I don't know why. It's Louisiana, so things are slow here. But I will be experimenting with medical marijuana when the time comes. And I'm excited for just something new and natural that's not a pill.
And we want to get more resources out there about the medicinal cannabis more with our guests and doctors. And I know Dr. Lipton has been putting out information regarding CBD, has her tinctures. There's also more companies that have reached out to Support Fibro to share information and have CBD products. So I think as we catch up with you further along to get all this information, because we want to hear more about the ketamine infusions and more about LDN. So you're going to bring a lot to Support Fibro, and I'm glad that we can push our community forward in advocacy, research, but most importantly, connect all of you guys together. I love the conversations I see with everyone, building friendships, and then getting a perspective of what's going on in your community is so important. And then that way, if there's people out there living nearby you and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I know someone in our area, it's just fantastic to learn. So what does the future hold for the 40Over blog? When I started my blog last year, I was blogging like twice a week, and I think I'm going to like twice a month now. A lot of the time it's just I have an idea. Okay, I have time to write. Here I go. But it's more, I would say, honesty, and then taking my advocacy work and writing about that. And then eventually when I get in a better spot, and especially after my kids are settled at summer camp or settled in their next grade, they'll be in kindergarten and first grade next year. So we have a lot of transitions coming up. But at some point I'd like to start pitching articles,
and getting more coverage for us, but also maybe making some money. I don't qualify, even though I've been a stay-at-home mom for almost 7 years, I don't qualify for disability because I haven't had a paycheck. So I would really like to be on disability. I cannot earn enough. I can't earn right now. But in the future, through my blog, I hope that it will be a template, or it'll show a body of my work and what my voice is like, and we shall see. I have a goal to write a book before I'm 45. Not necessarily about fibro, but it would obviously be, I can only write from my point of view. I cannot seem to write fiction as hard as I've tried for 20 years. So I think where I'm going is where you're going, honestly. That's what it feels like right now. So yay, support fibro.
Well, I love having all of you around me, just from the writer's perspective and the community perspective, and keeping it real, as many of our team members know that I dive into the science a lot. So as you see the pathway planner behind me, but everyone on the team keeps me balanced. So I think I'm so excited for the interviews this month, because I just know from all the bloggers we have, Julie Ryan is going to be on Wednesday. She had originally founded the Chronic Illness Bloggers Network. So we're a big supporter of bloggers. Beth is doing things. We had an interview with Suzanne, who is the Fibro Mom blog. So that'll be up too. So all of you connecting together, I'm excited. I'm excited for Washington, D.C. As we close out this interview, where can listeners connect with you?
My blog is FortyOver.Blog, and it's because I felt like right around when I turned 40, I was either 40 and over, or my life at 40 was over. Like the night that I was like, I'm randomly starting a blog. That's what I decided to call it. So FortyOver.Blog. I've
never heard that.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere. But I really was like, am I 40 and my life is over? Because it's kind of 40 is I don't feel 40. I feel 80, but I don't feel like, how did I get to be 40? I was in my 20s. I do still get carded, but I think that's a legality thing. So on FortyOver.Blog, you can find my Instagram, my Twitter, and my Facebook page, and lots of tools and links and resources. I am not a doctor. I do not pretend to be a doctor, but I have tried a lot of things in the last year and a half, and I'll continue to. And right now, I'm looking forward to my heating pad and the second half of last night's Game of Thrones before I go pick up my kids from school.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Jennifer. We really appreciate it, and I look forward to working with you more. I look forward to meeting you in person soon. Thank you to all our Support Fibro listeners. We are going to continue to catch up with more advocates and educators this week. I appreciate everyone tuning in, and thanks, Jennifer. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.